Michael Annett announces his retirement from full-time NASCAR racing, and with the Charlotte Roval coming up, let's look at the points grid and talk about who may be in trouble this Sunday. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. I'm wearing an awful lot of red today in honor of Michael Annett, who often drove a red car. We'll talk about Michael Annett's big announcement yesterday in just a few moments, but first, as you can see, this episode is sponsored by Work Pro Tools. You've probably seen their logo on the DGM Xfinity cars like Josh Williams' number 92, and they have a partnership with the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Work Pro Tools will be running special pink paint schemes on track the next few weeks. And also with this partnership, Work Pro Tools is selling special pink tools right now on their Amazon store. That link is down in the description. Each purchase of these tools results in a monetary donation to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. The NBCF's mission now is to provide help and inspire hope to those affected by breast cancer through early detection, education, and support systems. So it truly is a good cause. Be sure to click that link down below to see everything Work Pro Tools has to offer and check out those special October pink toolkits. We've got a couple things to talk about today. Let's start with the big news from yesterday. Michael Annett, longtime NASCAR driver, longtime Xfinity Series driver, but also raced full-time in Cup for a few seasons. Yesterday, he announced his retirement from full-time racing. The 35-year-old driver suffered a stress fracture in his right leg this past July while working out, according to reports. And that injury on and off has caused him to miss, I believe, 8 races this season. It forced him out of a playoff spot likely, and it is still unclear whether or not he plans to race again this season. If he does not race again this year, his final race, at least as a full-time driver, will have been at Richmond a few weeks ago where he finished 22nd. Michael Annett has raced full-time for Junior Motorsports since 2017, scoring 1 career victory in the process, 2019, the season opener at Daytona. He's raced for other teams in Xfinity. He drove for Richard Petty Motorsports in 2012-2013, and from 2014 through 2016, he actually drove full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series, first for Tommy Baldwin and then for H. Scott Motorsports. He's always been recognizable on track, rocking the Pilot Flying J colors more often than not, but alas, that era seems to be coming to an end. And I don't really know what to say, because Michael Annett, he's never been the biggest personality on the track or off the track. He's never really gotten the results. He's always just, quite frankly, kind of been there. When he's in a good car, he's usually somewhere in the top 10 or top 12. When he's not in a good car, he's usually in the back, minding his own business more often than not getting in too many people's ways, but he's just kind of there. I don't really know how else to describe it, but it's kind of sad to see a driver not really go out on his own terms. At least that's how this feels. That nagging leg injury that's forced him out of the car much of the second half of this season, I have to imagine that's the driving factor behind this retirement decision. He's only 35 years old, so he's not young. He's not like an up-and-coming star, but he's also not old. Like, NASCAR drivers frequently race into their 40s or sometimes later. Per Motorsport Analytics, Michael Annett should be smack dab in the prime of his career right now. But unfortunately, 2021 will be his final season. I don't really know what to say. He's a perfect example of a driver who's not bad, but he's nothing special, but he's had funding his whole career, so he's gotten good opportunities. He's raced for Junior Motorsports for the past 4 years now. He's really just taken up that space. There's no way to put it. And this has to sting even more for him, knowing that just 2 weeks ago, Josh Berry, in his first real season as a full Xfinity Series driver, went out and won at Las Vegas in Michael Annett's car. Pilot and Flying J finally made it back to victory lane without Michael Annett behind the wheel. That has to sting just a little bit. So I do feel bad for the guy, and it is unclear how much this injury is driving this decision. I have to imagine it is quite considerably, given that just a few weeks ago, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was talking about fielding 5 full-time cars next year, assuming Michael Annett was coming back. This sounds like a decision that was made fairly recently and probably with health at the top of the mind. So looking ahead to Junior Motorsports' 2022 plans, right now they have Sam Mayer, who has unfortunately struggled his first part-time season as an Xfinity Series driver, but clearly has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Noah Gragson, we now know, is returning for at least one more season with Junior Motorsports. Josh Berry, of course, he will race full-time next year. That was a very exciting announcement earlier this year. And Justin Allgaier will return as well. He's always a championship contender, kind of the veteran of the group, if you will. I don't think Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to go out and find a 5th driver. I think that spot was reserved for Michael Annett and Pilot Flying J if Michael Annett was willing to give it a go next season. Annett's retiring, so I think Junior Motorsports will stay at 4 cars. I'm not sure what number everyone is going to be driving. I think Berry might be in the 8, and I think they talked about Mayer being in the 88, but now that the 1 car I guess, is open. Maybe they'll move someone to the 1. I don't know what the numbers will look like next year, but we now know Michael Annett will not return. I'm not going to rule out Michael Annett, and it sounds like Michael Annett's not even ruling out the potential, one-off return here or there. I could see Michael Annett almost being like the next Brendan Gaughan, just showing up a few times a year, maybe even in the Cup Series once in a while, to race on the super speedways, to race at Daytona or Talladega with Flying J Pilot backing him in that car. I could absolutely see him doing some one-offs like that, and assuming it's just his leg that's hurting him that's the problem, at Daytona and Talladega, you kind of just flat-foot it most of the way around. You're not having to be super technical like at a road course. You're not being thrown around like you might be at other tracks the same way. Unless you're in a big wreck, of course. But when you're just making laps at Daytona and Talladega, I've never made laps at Daytona or Talladega, but I imagine it's not as strenuous on the body as racing at some other racetracks may be. So Michael Annett could very well return for some one-offs here and there. I hope he does. I think Brendan Gaughan kind of won a little special place in the fan base's heart with his one-offs in the 62 car. I kind of hope Michael Annett tries doing the same thing. I wouldn't be against it. His one Xfinity win did come at a super speedway, so he at least knows how to get it done there when put in the right opportunity. So anyway, Michael Annett announcing his retirement from full-time racing, at least. That was the big news yesterday. There hasn't been a whole lot of other big news this week. The short week with the race, of course, being run Monday and Bubba Wallace getting the win has stolen a lot of the headlines, as it should. That has been a big deal. But there's not a whole lot of other news to talk about so far this week. So looking ahead to the Roval, I know it's Thursday. I know we still have a couple more days to think about it, but I want to talk about the Charlotte Roval because the Roval has been a huge success, a huge hit with fans since its inception in 2018. I think everyone was a little skeptical at first. What, they're turning Charlotte a staple, a mile and a half? They're going to run the infield road course version? Oh, we'll see how this goes. NASCAR hadn't really added any new road courses to the schedule in quite some time. We'll see what happens. We all remember 2018's race. It was very entertaining, and the finish between Johnson and Truex taking each other out, Blaney getting the win at the final corner. That race was fantastic. Immediately excited fans for the future of the Charlotte Roval. 2019's race did not disappoint either, with Chase Elliott, of course, flying off into the turn 1 wall in that one restart, battling back in the closing laps, passing an unimaginable amount of cars in the closing stretch to still come back and get the win. Of course, Chase Elliott backed up that win with another win in 2020. So the most popular driver is really good there, and there have been some really dramatic finishes and moments in its first couple of years. The Charlotte Roval is a fan favorite, as it should be. Credit to NASCAR, and more importantly, credit to Speedway Motorsports for being willing to take that risk and having it pan out so far. But NASCAR continues to turn up the temperature. Charlotte Roval is a cutoff race. The cutoff race from the round of 12 to the round of 8. This is when things get serious. The round of 16, things can happen. Kurt Busch getting eliminated in the round of 16, I think caught some people off guard, but now we're getting into the nitty gritty. I think once we get through this next round, once the 12 are reduced to 8, I think those 8 drivers, really any of them could win the championship, and I wouldn't be surprised. So the Charlotte Roval this weekend will set the Elite 8, will set really the 8 drivers I think have realistic championship aspirations. So let's look at the points grid as we go into the Charlotte Roval. Denny Hamlin's the only driver locked in because of his win at Las Vegas. And behind him, even Kyle Larson, who's been so good this year, he's in a pretty good spot compared to the competition at least, but even he is not safe. Only 22 points to the good. You see all the Penske cars behind him like Logano, Keselowski, Truex, Blaney a little bit further down. Then you've got Chase Elliott, the defending series champion, and Kyle Busch, the 2019 series champion. You have the 2 most recent champions right there. The last 2 drivers currently to the good, both only +9. You've got the 2014 champion, Kevin Harvick, -9, and Christopher Bell, who's won at a road course this season. We're going to a road course this weekend. He's -28. And then 2 Hendrick cars. Hendrick has been so consistent, so good this year, but you got Byron and Bowman in virtually must-win territory. So let's look at that cut line down there for a moment and talk about who's in the best spot to advance. First, let's start with Alex Bowman. He's got great numbers at the Charlotte Roval. He's finished 4th, 2nd, and 8th in his 3 starts here, so very good, very consistent, but he hasn't won yet. He's going to need to win on Sunday if he wants to move on to the next round. Now, both he and his teammate William Byron, who's just above him there in the points, they both put together clutch performances at Bristol a couple weeks ago to avoid being eliminated in the round of 16, but it's going to take even more to get out of the round of 12. I don't think there's any way both Byron and Bowman advance. I think one of them has a shot, and it's going to be whoever ends up winning the race at the end of Sunday afternoon. And William Byron has 2 sixth-place finishes in the last 2 years at the Charlotte Roval. So he's no slouch here either. He's led laps in each of the last 2 years. In fact, he's led 23 and 27 laps here the last 2 seasons. Alex Bowman, comparatively, has only led 6 laps total in his Charlotte Roval career. So it's a toss-up if you ask me, but between those two, I would give Alex Bowman the slight advantage. I mean, William Byron has 1 win this year at Homestead, Miami. He deserved it. He earned it. He was really strong at the beginning of the year. Alex Bowman, though, has 3 wins. He has not been as consistently fast as William Byron really all season long, but some way, somehow, when push comes to shove, when the final restart's at stake, Alex Bowman's usually the one making the moves to win races, whether it's stealing the win at Richmond or being at the right place at the right time at Pocono when Kyle Larson blew a tire. Alex Bowman wins more than William Byron does, and winning is going to be everything this weekend, so given Bowman's past success at the Roval, I think Alex Bowman has the best shot of those two, at least, at stealing the win and surviving another round. But ahead of them, Christopher Bell. Keep your eye on that 20 car this weekend. Like I said, he won at the Daytona road course, another Roval, if you will, at the very beginning of this season. But over the summer, he was second at Road America, was really strong there. And he's been fast recently. He had a really good car at Talladega last week. And I know it's a completely different rules package, different type of track, but maybe riding some momentum there. Watch out for Christopher Bell. He's got a championship crew chief, Adam Stevens, working with him. And strategy at these road courses often comes into play. He's the driver below the cut line I'm keeping the closest eye on because minus 28, he really needs to win, but if he just runs up front, maybe runs top 3, and depending on some struggles, maybe ahead of him in the standings, Christopher Bell could maybe point his way in if he maximizes his stage point opportunities. We'll see. We'll see how things develop. Ahead of him, Kevin Harvick is very interesting. Almost no playoff points to his credit, but he's been so consistent in these playoffs so far and came real close to winning at Bristol a couple weeks ago that he's put himself in a pretty good position. Minus 9, I think that's as good as Harvick could have hoped for, especially looking at the first 2 tracks of this round and how the SHR cars have handled it mile and a half, and of course the luck that's involved at super speedways. He's in a better position than I thought he would be in at this stage. He's been good at the Charlotte Roval. He's finished 9th, 3rd, and 11th the 3 times he's been there, so very solid, very consistent. If he runs top 5, top 10 all day on Sunday, like collect some stage points as well, I think Kevin Harvick has a great shot at pointing his way in, especially when we talk about the driver just ahead of him, Kyle Busch, the 2019 Series champion, plus 9. Kyle Busch's best finish at the Roval in 3 starts is 30th. You heard that right. 30th, 32nd, and 37th in his 3 Roval starts. Something always goes wrong. We know Kyle Busch is a solid road course racer, so presumably he will one day break into the top 20 or top 10 at the Roval, maybe this year, in fact, probably this year. But it's not a sure bet. It's not a safe bet by any means. Kyle Busch at pretty much every track on the schedule, you can at least pencil in a top 10 and probably a top 5 and maybe a shot at the win, but not the Charlotte Roval, not with those numbers I just rattled off. He's only plus 9, and the 4 drivers below him right now have done either more at the Charlotte Roval the last few years or have done more at road courses this season than Kyle Busch himself has. So Kyle Busch, of all the drivers at or near or below the cut line, he's the one I am most concerned about because plus 9, I think Kyle Busch fans got to be feeling okay, he's in the top 8 right now. He just needs to maintain, just needs to sustain that. I'm not convinced that he will. Kyle Busch has gotten rattled in these playoffs already. The opener at Darlington, he kind of spun himself out off the nose of Austin Dillon's car and then, drove in through the garage a little recklessly, got fined for that. I feel like Kyle Busch is not quite as focused as like his teammate Denny Hamlin seems to be right now, who's won 2 of the first 5 playoff races, or Truex, who's looked more consistent. Like Kyle Busch, when he's on, we know he's deadly. He's fantastic, arguably the best driver in NASCAR today, but it's also easy to rattle Kyle Busch just a little bit. I'm not convinced he's at the top of his game right now, and going to the Roval, a place he's had no success at in his Cup career, I'm worried about Kyle Busch. Chase Elliott tied with him plus 9, I'm not worried about at all because, well, Kyle Busch has, a 30th place as his best finish here. Chase Elliott's won the last 2 years of the Roval. 6th, 1st in his 3 Roval starts. He's obviously the best road course racer in NASCAR today. He's going to run top 2, top 3. I think it'll be between him and Kyle Larson for the race win. My money would be on Chase Elliott, but apparently so is everybody else's. He has crazy good odds. So, I don't know. I'm not worried about Chase Elliott. Obviously, anything can happen. He can get taken out on lap 1 by something ridiculous or run over a piece of debris. Who knows? But barring any wacky circumstances, Chase Elliott is going to be fine. Kyle Busch, on the other hand, is in trouble, in my opinion. If Christopher Bell or Bowman or Byron were closer to the cut line, I would pick one of them to dethrone Kyle Busch and sneak into the round of 8. But since they're so far back, unless they get the win, unless Bell or Bowman or even maybe Byron steals the win, there's no way they're getting in. Or at least in the case of Bell, it's extremely unlikely. So right now, I think Kevin Harvick, who's, again, I read off his stats, 9th, 3rd, and 11th at the Roval, very consistent. I think Kevin Harvick is going to score enough points this weekend to pass Kyle Busch in the standings, and the only way Harvick doesn't advance to the round of 8 is if a guy like Christopher Bell or Alex Bowman grabs the win, which again, I think is very possible, especially Christopher Bell. But that's my big bold prediction going into the weekend. I don't think Kyle Busch makes it out of this round. I'm just not feeling it. At the beginning of these playoffs, he was in my championship 4. People ask me now, who's in your championship 4? The only change I'd make is I'd probably swap Kyle Busch out with Denny Hamlin at this point. I'd put Hamlin, Truex, Elliott, and Larson in the championship 4. That's the only edit I would make, and it's because I just don't think Kyle Busch is at the top of his game right now. And the Roval, he's really vulnerable there. So that's my big bold prediction this weekend. I don't do this every week, but now that we're in the playoffs, and again, like I said, we're getting close to the most crucial moments on the schedule. Once we get to the round of 8, again, any of those 8 drivers I think could realistically win the championship. From Kyle Larson to Brad Keselowski, I could argue in favor of either of them. So it will be really interesting to see who the 4 drivers that get eliminated this round end up being. Because even the drivers that might get eliminated, like Bowman, Byron, maybe Kyle Busch, I think they could be championship contenders in the right universe. But right now, I don't think they're in a great spot. That's just my prediction. Leave your comments down below. Who are you watching closely at the Roval this weekend? Who's your pick to make it in? Who do you think falls out surprisingly? Thanks for watching this video. That's all I've got. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already. We talk NASCAR day in, day out here on Out of the Groove. Got some pretty fun videos in the works for this weekend that I can't wait to share with y'all. And as always, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. Just looking in the monitor, I am wearing a lot of red. I don't usually wear this much red, but I'm wearing my Rockets hat. They won their first preseason game after the season they had last year, this rebuild. I'm gonna celebrate a preseason win. Anyway, I'm wearing red. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic rest of your day, y'all.